That's amazing. They probably needed somebody like you.
Well, yeah, you know what? They always looked at us as like we were the grounded ones. We were the ones that were down to earth, that you could, no matter what, even when they got big, and some of the people around them would bullshit them and tell them what they think they want to hear, that kind of stuff, because they either work for them or they're ass-licking them or whatever. They knew that if they asked my opinion, they were going to get what I really thought, not what I think they want. You know, I used to argue with them. They'd come to me for advice, and I'd tell them what I thought, and if they didn't agree with what I said, we'd argue about it. But so that shows you that if we're arguing, it means I'm not agreeing, or I'm giving my true opinion. But my opinion meant something to them because they looked up to me, because I was the one that was stable. But when they were on the streets, I had a job. I came from a good family, that had a history in Los Angeles. So I was like a celebrity in a way. So when they got 100 times richer than I was, they still thought I was 100 times richer than they were, because how could I not be? I never changed in their mind. I was always still on top. I was the one that they respected. So to this day, if Slash plays a gig and he knows I was at that gig, regardless who it was with, he'll always call me the next day. How was the gig? Well, okay, well, you were out of tune in this song, and your sound man didn't have you loud enough there, and I'll tell him exactly what I thought. And who else is going to tell him that?
Was because you've known them for so long, and when Axl first arrived in LA, was he ever Bill Bailey to you, or has he always been Axl?
No, well, he's actually technically always Axl, but he was Bill before I met him. Because what happened was, Slash said, there's this band called Rose, and there's a singer, Bill and Izzy, that are in this band. Let's go check them out. I heard they're good. That was the only time he was ever Bill, because after that gig, I met him. He already had changed his name to Axl, but Slash didn't know it. So he was Bill for one day, and then when I met him, he was, this is Axl. So that was it.
And you call Slash or Saul?
I don't call him either. Hey, I just call him Hey.
What's he in your phone as?
In my what?
What have you got him in your phone as?
Slash.
See? There you go. Did they have a nickname for you?
Mark.
You must have had a cool name.
No, I mean, I didn't have a nickname. I mean, I don't know. They're rock stars. But they had these names before they were rock stars, so they didn't really change. Honestly, they didn't change from the club days. They got big and famous, but they didn't change. They're the same people. They really are. They're the same people they were when I met them.
Yeah. That's amazing. Fame hasn't changed them. But they never did it for the money or the fame.
No, they were doing it because they enjoyed. They were writing music that they enjoyed writing, that came from influences. They had common influences, and they were doing their version. They weren't even ripping anyone off. They were doing their version of what they wanted to do, and everyone loved it. It worked.
Because you've had this institution for so long, and it's open 24 hours a day, right?
Yeah.
So people do secret shows and late night shows and things here as well?
Well, no, we have music in the bar, which is called our Kibitz Room here.
Okay.
But that started in actually it started in 1961, but the music stopped after a year or two. We had like a piano bar, no one famous really. Although through the 60s you had everybody in here, the Stones and the Doors and the whatever, Yardbirds, the Turtles, for example, they were all here hanging out on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But we didn't have music. If we did, they probably would have got up and jammed or whatever. But in 1990, the Wallflowers were the first band to really start here. But they didn't play as the Wallflowers. They played as musicians with their friends. And they got up and they didn't do Wallflower songs. They did songs from the 60s or 70s that they grew up liking. And they didn't even really know all those songs. They had songs sometimes that fall apart. Not everybody knew how it really went. They'd try to pull it off, and sometimes they did, sometimes they did. They were just totally winging it.
Yeah.
And from that, all the nights became filled because other people wanted to play also. And they couldn't all play in the same night. So now we have music 7 nights a week. But if you're wondering about that, yeah, sure, Melissa Etheridge played here with Jackson Browne. They were in one night eating, and they got up and jammed with whoever was playing here. Mm-hmm. Different people, the Black Crowes jammed here, Chrissy Hyde, the Pretenders, some of the members, they played the Wiltern Theater. about 2 years ago, and afterwards they came here and got up and played 3 or 4 songs. So it's very loose atmosphere. Slash did play here 1992 a couple of times. On the jam night, he'd just come and pick up someone's guitar and plug it in, and he'd still sound like Slash, though. Even though it was like a Strat that was bought yesterday, it still sounded like a Les Paul, and it was Slash. But
and no one's going to say, no, you can't actually borrow my guitar? No one's...
No, he'd just pick it up, and he'd just, like, move the knobs a little bit, and right away you're going to hear him coming out of it. So, he has that ability to do that.
Have you... Music today has obviously changed, and in here it always talks about the buzz of Guns N' Roses and the build-up. Do you think any bands have that today that you see coming through?
No, well, to me, I'm hard to impress musically because I
can imagine. You've got a pretty good pedigree.
No, I'm even bored seeing Aerosmith these days. I've seen, all these bands in their prime, and when they come around again 25 years later, it doesn't really excite me. Yeah. But I am going to see System of a Down. They're the only band that has impressed me, honestly. I'm not saying I don't like any bands that I do, but they're the ones that would actually impress me enough to go on eBay and actually buy some tickets to go see them.
Yeah.
And because I don't really get excited about that anymore, but they excite me. I like that band a lot. My son was actually in a band that was doing well in the LA scene, at the Whiskey and places like that. And they were young, they were 15, 16 years old, and there was a lot of potential there, but, they're still in school, and then they, instead of really pursuing it, they went to college, and, my son's now in college, but I still think the chances of making it are so much harder these days. The best you're going to get is produce a song that might get put into a video game, and they pay you $10,000 for licensing it, and then that's it. As far as getting on the radio or that kind of thing, it's so rare to happen. The record companies they're not what they used to be, and you can put, but the good news is you can put out your own music, and have a MySpace and sell your music, or do whatever, or even go to iTunes and sell your music. But as far as making it like a super group where you're going to go to a record store and buy their poster and hang it on your wall, I think it's done. Yeah. You're only going to get like the teeny boppers that like the like Britney Spears or whatever, that kind of thing that's already established. I think it's pretty much finished. It's a shame, but that's what the technology has done with the internet. And although you can get your music out on YouTube, and you've got more avenues to get your music out to people, the problem is nobody cares, really.
Yeah.
And if somebody does care and sees it, the best you're going to get is they're going to record you, and you're going to end up on a video game. And the chances of you getting on the radio are very slim.
Do you think the Sunset Strip will ever have another heyday?
No, the Sunset Strip is impossible. It's a pay-to-play. It was pay-to-play even when Guns N' Roses was doing it, but it wasn't. You'd have to come up with like $100 or whatever to sell a certain amount of tickets. Now you got to come up with like $600 or $700. Or pay they give you tickets to sell, and you have to sell that amount of tickets for a 35-minute set. Yeah, when my son's band was playing, they had to sell 60 tickets at $12, which is what, $700 and something, just so they could play. And then they were given 80 tickets, but so if they sell 80 tickets, then they make a couple $100.
Yeah.
But back then, you'd play the Troubadour, and there'd be 3 bands a night. Now there's 7 or 8 bands. They cram them, and the bands would play for like close to an hour. Now the bands play for 30 minutes, and they're in and out, and it's just
you're just a machine.
And you're playing in front of your own friends, who you force them to buy the ticket.
Yeah.
You can't hang flyers up anymore because the city will hit the clubs and charge them huge fines for posting those. So the promoting. It's expensive to go to a gig. It's like $20 to get in a gig these days. So,
do you miss those days?
It used to be free. You'd have a Troubadour ticket and be complimentary, or it'd be $2 to get in. So you thought a band might be good. You might see them for $2, but for $20, you're not going to see them unless you know them.
Yeah, because these boys had to sell their own tickets as well, up and down the streets, didn't they?
Yeah, I sold tickets. And the tickets they didn't sell, I was out there scalping them like a minute before the show started while they were getting dressed, because that's the only way I'd get my money back, because I'd have to fork out the money. for those tickets, and if they didn't sell them, then I'm the one that was out the money, not them, because I'm the one that fronted it a lot of the time. So
did they pay you back once they got rich and famous?
well, yes and no.
Are you listening, boys? Yes and no.
Yes, I mean, they didn't owe me that much. It was probably like, well, Slash had personal money that he had borrowed over the years, even before Guns N' Roses. And when I got married, I needed money.
And almost a bike.
I needed money. We ran out of money, and I needed money to get my wedding album out of Hawk. I owed him like $4,000, and so I said to Slash, I got to get that money back. It's 1989. You have money now. They've been famous for like 2 years now, so he paid me back the money he owed me with even a little interest, which was nice. But technically, the band had never. They all thought all of them thought someone else had paid me back, and I never got paid back. And it was about $3,400, honestly. But then again,
$3,400 Slash. I'm sure you're good for it.
But then again, they flew me around. They paid for my hotel. They put me up in, I got a pinball machine. The pinball machine alone is worth $3,000. So I got paid back, and I thought my book eventually would make money, and it probably will after I'm dead.
It will.
Well, because this is the Polish lottery. I'm going to sell 1 million books. It's just going to be a book a day for 1 million years.
The Polish lottery?
Yeah.
What's the story there? What's
you
the
sell
Polish lottery?
You get $1 million, except you win $1 a day for 1 million years. But that's the thing. I'm selling about 3 books a day. I sell on eBay probably 1 or 2 books a day. I sell a book here. And I'm just going to sell 3 books a day for the rest of my life. Yeah. And even after I'm dead, my grandkids will sell 3 books a day. And when they're dead, their grandkids, because this band is not going away. It's like the Beatles, it's like Led Zeppelin. They're going to be long dead, and people are still going to be, kids are going to be 15 years old buying Appetite for Destruction, one way or another. They might like download it from the air into like their finger or who knows how, but it will still be around. You can't erase it. And as long as that's around, people are going to want to know where it came from. So this book will always show how it all started. It's the birth of the band. Yeah. So I know that, and that's the thing with my portraits. I have the limited number of portraits, the 11 by 14s I put out. I know, and I make them in a way that they'll last forever. They're acid-free matting, UV protective glass that won't fade the photo, wood frame. So you put that on your wall, and it's going to 200 years from now, that's still going to be hanging there. Yeah. And we're going to be dead, but it's going to be up.
Where can people buy those?
Well, I sell them on my eBay store. I guess if you just go to eBay and do a search for like Reckless Road, you're going to find my book. And if you find my book, you can click on my other items, and you'll find that. I'm not sure what the link is, but
that's all right.
It's a Marc Canter. eBay's Marc Canter. It's one word, but I don't know exactly the link to how to get there. But I know that when I'm gone, those will be hanging. So that's my mark. My mom says you can't take anything with you except your name. And if I can have my name making people happy after I'm dead, then I've completed my goals.
Well, I'm going to have at least one of those pictures. I'm pretty sure. As soon as we saw them the other day, then I was like, oh, that's unbelievable.
I got a bunch of different pictures, actually. I have 40 different ones that I sell. People think I'm crazy to put that many out because it sort of kills the market if you have only 1 or 2. But the difference is there's one from Rocket Queen, the first time Rocket Queen was played. There's one from Nitron. There's one from Welcome to the Jungle. There's one from Paradise City. There's different things for different people. There's group shots of them backstage 5 days before they got signed. Yeah. That just shows the rock and roll moment. There's so many photos that, and a lot of them aren't even in the book, but that are my favorite photos that I figure instead of gouging people at $600 a photo and only putting 2 or 3 of them out, I put 40 of them out and made them, $179. And the other ones, some of them are $250 shipping included. But if I give them the photo for free and they went to like even a cheap frame shop and try to get that done with that kind of acid matting and the UV glass and wood frame, it would cost them $200.
Well, they're beautiful shots, and getting them straight from you, then that's another bit of the legacy, I think.
Well, yeah, I sign them, and I hand print on the bottom, the information with the date of the show or maybe what transpired that night, a little story about something. Yeah. So it's just kind of like a piece of, it's like an artifact on your wall. It's like a little piece of history, and people come over, and you can point out people in the audience and say, look, there's Michelle Young from My Michelle. Look, there she is. Yeah. you know, that's what makes a photo fun. It's not just the person in the photo, but the story behind the photo.
Yeah.
And I only picked photos that have stories behind them.